pretty wild. So this film and Cutthroat Island were the couple's attempt at generating more interest in female leads within the industry.
Well, we had the discussion about Cutthroat Island. I can't speak on that as to whether or not that's a good movie that just got overlooked. I don't think it was a great movie, but it was fun when I was 15.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you watched this when you're 15, right? Because it came out within 6 months of each other?
Within about 10 months. I was, I think, 16 when this came out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was 16 years old. Or I was headed into my 17th birthday, because it came out around my birthday. This, I mean, like I said, we can't speak about Cutthroat Island, but this, I think that this is an overlooked film, and I think that, yeah, like, she's a great female action lead, and it's a shame that she didn't really do anything else quite like this, and it's kind of a shame that it took them, Hollywood, like, a longer period of time to have, like, another female action lead. And I think Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie, it was like the next big action movie with a female lead, and that was 5 or 6 years between the two.
When was that? Like 2001?
Yeah, that was summer 2001.
Well, and those movies aren't great either.
Tomb Raider? No.
That was more of her.
Yeah.
Like a gawking fest.
Yeah.
Jackson actually refers to himself as a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
In the film. As we already spoiled that one, but it's a Pulp Fiction reference, or I would like to think so. New Line strongly considered turning the lead into a male. And I guess Steven Seagal or Sylvester Stallone would have been one.
That's funny, because even at the time that this movie was made, Steven Seagal was on his way down. Mm-hmm. All his big hits were in the early '80s, like late '80s, early '90s.
You like Alfred Justice?
Alfred Justice is pretty solid. For whatever reason, man, Marked for Death was always my shit.
I think
with the Jamaicans. I would watch that one all the time. It's a trashy movie, and Steven Seagal can fuck off now. But for when I was in junior high and high school, I watched the shit out of Marked for Death all the time.
I'll have to go back and watch that. What about Under Siege?
Under Siege is good.
Yeah.
But he did Under Siege 2, and then after that, that was like on his way out.
He's also in what's that Kurt Russell film with the fucking plane?
Yeah, Executive Decision. He dies in like the first 15 minutes of the movie.
They blow him out of the transport thing. I can remember my grandmother going, "They just killed Steven Seagal." One of my old high school teachers, he like helped write that.
Really?
Or something. It was crazy.
Executive Decision?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good movie.
Yeah. I used to own it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I watched it not too long ago, too. Maybe 2 years ago. It was on HBO or something. I watched it again. It's a pretty solid movie. I remember watching it when it came out in theater and really enjoying it. And I love Kurt Russell. And I'm glad that he was kind of like the real lead of the film, even though they put Steven Seagal's face all over the marketing.
Of course.
Or they were trying to, like, play up his part in the movie because he was big at the time.
I heard something where they did that. Yeah, they did it on purpose, and then it was like a surprise that he died or whatever. Because obviously that's probably one of the first films, or any of the films, where he fucking dies.
Yeah.
Because he was like a Van Damme type of icon, right?
Yeah.
Where he was.
Yeah, always like the hero never died. Like maybe Sylvester Stallone.
He might get the shit kicked out of him, but then he comes back.
Yeah. I could maybe see like a Sylvester Stallone action movie, but the reason I think this one works well is because of the female lead.
Yeah, or that it sets it apart from everything else.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It would have just been like another mid-level action movie. But I think that the female lead is a good hook for the film, and she's fucking awesome in it. We talked about how awesome Gina Davis is. She's great in the movie.
It's true.
And she looks buff, and she's tough, and she beats up a lot of guys, and has a lot of great action scenes.
When she's on the wheel, she looks all, her arms are all big. It's crazy.
I know that she did a lot of her own stunts for Cutthroat Island, so I would assume that she did a lot of her own stunts for this one as well.
I saw a little interview the other day of her talking about Cutthroat Island. They said that they did all this kind of research on pirates, that she took training for the sword fighting and all kinds of stuff. And so it's a shame that they did, when people really dedicate themselves and it doesn't work out, especially catastrophically like that.
They had so many problems on that production from all the research I did on that, which we're not talking about Cutthroat Island, so I'm not going to get into everything, but I know that they had script issues. I know that they had a beef with the guy who was their DP or their chief camera operator, and he left the project, so they had to reshoot a bunch of stuff. I know the production, the sets and the production design were not up to Rennie Harlan's liking, so they had to scrap a lot of that, and that's a lot of what caused that budget to rise. But we can do Cutthroat Island at another time and talk about a bad movie.
Bad movie. My last one is you said this a couple times, but for anybody who's not aware of his work, Shane Black has a thing for Christmas.
Yes,
and most of his movies take place at least around that time.
The only Nice Guys does, but you don't really know it until the end.
Yeah, with the party.
Yeah, they're like at the...
And you see the decorations.
Yeah.
There's like a tree.
Yeah, and then when the bar, the very last scene of the movie when they're in the bar and they're talking, it's obviously Christmas time because of all the decorations that are up in the bar. But it was one that I remember seeing the trailer and being like, oh, it's going to take place at Christmas time because Shane Black's obsessed with Christmas. And for probably like half to 3/4 of the movie, you don't really know that until you get to like the climax of the film.
That's a good movie.
I love that movie. I think that's another underrated one. It didn't do well, but it did good enough.
It was critically...
Yeah.
Critics loved it.
Yeah.
I think it has a 90-something...
Yeah, and I think Russell Crowe's very good in it, but I think Gosling's great in the movie. And his daughter is fantastic, and she's kind of like the third leg of that triangle, or that tripod that holds the movie up, because all three of them are very, very good together.
Yeah, her quips and everything. Pretty solid.
Last Boy Scout takes place at Christmas. Long Kiss Goodnight takes place at Christmas. Lethal Weapon does. Nice Guys, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Iron Man 3 does.
Yeah.
Iron Man 3 takes place at Christmas, and I'm pretty sure The Predator takes place at Christmas. So I know Last Action Hero wasn't his original script, so that's probably why it doesn't.
There's nothing about Christmas in that one?
Not that I recall.
And Monster Squad is still up in the air.
That's up in the air. We need a rewatch on that one. I don't think that it does.
Maybe that was before
he got the hard on for Christmas.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I don't know what his reason is, if he's just obsessed with the holiday, but I think it kind of makes it cool.
I remember, I don't know how credible he is, but CJ told me it was just because he just loves Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's why he always throws that in there. It's just kind of his thing.
It's a
trademark.
Yeah, it's a cool setting, a cool time to set a movie.
I agree, yeah. It's fun.
So you didn't have as a fact, so this is my fact for the movie. And I think you can kind of tell by watching the movie. Mitch dies in the original cut.
Oh.
Yeah, I think after he gets shot trying to go after Caitlin, I think he dies.
I was really expecting that watching the film. I feel like they were leading you down that road.
Or at least in the script he dies, but yeah. I believe that they did shoot that because from what I understand, when they did the test screening, everyone was like, no, like you can't kill him. You can't let him die. And I'm glad that they didn't, because he went through a lot, and he did it for her, and he had her back. So I thought that was cool, and I thought it was cool that he ends up being the one that rescues them on the bridge, even though he's like just pouring blood.
Yeah, and he does that whole. He's like, "You can't kill me, motherfuckers." That
like
classic.
just blood, like completely coming out of his mouth, and he's been shot a couple of times.
Speaking of that, this director also did Deep Blue Sea, right?
Yeah, he did Deep Blue Sea, which is whatever. It's kind of fun.
Jackson,
but with Sam Jackson again, 3 or 4 years after this one, and that was probably the last. I would say probably like the last big movie that Rennie Harlan did. He did a handful of others in the early 2000s or the mid 2000s, but after Deep Blue Sea, I don't think he had another movie that was a hit.
I wonder why they didn't ask him to come back for Deep Blue Sea 2, which they did. They did. I put it on and it was a snooze fest, man.
Yeah, right.
Because of course, I know that it was a mix of CGI and practical for the first one, but the 2 just looked way bad.
That wasn't theatrically released, was it?
No. Of course not. But they sure plugged the fuck
right.
out of that.
Rennie Harlan might have said yes to it because he probably needed the money. I know that he and Gina Davis are no longer married. I think they got divorced a couple years after this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, I'd be interested to know why he never really did a big movie after Deep Blue Sea. I'm sure that there were movies that they thought were going to be big. I know he did one of the Exorcist prequels, because there was 2 of them. The studio didn't like one of them, so they basically like scrapped all of it and then hired Rennie Harlan to do like a more scary movie.
I think it was the first one that came out.
That he did? That Rennie Harlan did?
Yeah. It was the...
They came out within probably a 4 or 5 month span, if I remember correctly. Because I remember having one come out somewhere around 2004, and then the other one coming out either late 2004 or sometime early 2005.
Who was the actor? Was there a big actor?
I think it's Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, okay.
Is in both of them, playing young Father Merrin. But I know that I think Paul Schrader, who has written a bunch of like the classic Scorsese movies like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, Last Temptation of Christ. I think he did one of them, but it was like kind of like a slow kind of psychological horror.
Okay.
And then the studio didn't like that, so they fired him and scrapped that and wanted a more scary movie. And I think that Rennie Harlan came on, but for some reason they still had both completed films, and they still released them, within a few months of one another. They're both bad. They're both terrible.
Yeah, I watched one. I can't remember another one being released, but I watched one and it was just it was so boring.
I think one is called Dominion, and I think the other one is called like Exorcist: The Beginning.
I want to say he did the beginning.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. And let's be honest, were any of the sequels good? Besides, the
second one's awful.
Do we really care about... I heard 3's good.
I heard 3's good, and William Peter Blatty, who wrote the novel, directed it.
And it has Brad Dourif.
Yes,
right?
And George C. Scott. I've never seen it beyond just a few scenes. I remember it being creepy, but I was 10 years old. So I'd have to go and revisit it, but no one was asking for any sequels to The Exorcist, except maybe Warner Brothers, who wanted more money.
That's probably, that's probably true. But I think that concludes our episode, sir.
I would say so.
It was great, man, having you on.
Thanks. Like I said, I'm glad to be back on. This was something that, while I was going through what I went through and doing a lot of cleaning up of stuff and doing a lot of paperwork and all that, I was listening to you guys a lot.
Yeah.
Catching up on the shows that I had missed. And I was, I really would like to get back on, and that's when I was talking with you a couple weeks ago about, hey, I want to do this and I want to do these movies, and hey, The Predator's coming out on the 14th of September. Why don't we do a Shane Black movie that week? So thank you for letting me make that pick, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for caring and keeping up with the show.
Yeah, absolutely.